Good morning, all. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
My screen is visible, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. So, in yesterday class, we discussed about Maven and the different types of configuration ways and IOC container. Okay, and we discussed about Java based configuration. Okay, we discussed about Java based configuration. How to make class as Java configuration class? How to place normal class as a Java configuration class?
With the help of @configuration annotation.
Correct. By using at the rate configuration class, we need to annotate with, we have a class, right? For that class, we need to annotate it with at the rate configuration annotation. After that, it is the configuration. It is the configuration class. In that class only, we need to create the one or more beans. Okay, that is the configuration class. So in yesterday class, we discussed about configuration. How many ways are there? Total 3 ways there, right? So in yesterday class, we discussed about Java based configuration. In today class, we will discuss about annotation based configuration. Annotation based configuration. For annotation based configuration, we need to know about some annotations. Those are see, those annotations are, first one is at the rate component annotation. Okay, first one is at the rate component annotation. At the rate component annotation. Why we will use at the rate component annotation means, in Java based configuration, we created one configuration class. In that class, we created beans based on that configuration class. Okay, when we create IOC container, okay, when we create IOC container, IOC container read that configuration class. After that, inside that configuration class, we are manually created some objects. Okay, when we create that objects, it manages the life cycle of the spring beans. Okay, it manages the life cycle of the spring beans. సో ఇక్కడ చూడండి, సో జావా బేస్డ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్లో ఏంటంటే, ఈ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ క్లాస్లో మనం మాన్యువల్గా బీన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేయాలి. ఆఫ్టర్ దట్ మనం ఐఓసి కంటైనర్ క్రియేట్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఐఓసి కంటైనర్ ఆ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ క్లాస్ని రీడ్ చేసి ఆ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ క్లాస్లో ఉన్న బీన్స్కి బీన్స్ యొక్క లైఫ్ సైకిల్ మేనేజ్ చేస్తుంది. దట్ మీన్స్ హియర్ వి మాన్యువల్లీ క్రియేటెడ్ బీన్స్. ఓకే, మనం ఇక్కడ మాన్యువల్గా బీన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేసాం. బట్ యానోటేషన్ బేస్డ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ వచ్చేసరికి we no need to create beans manually. మనం మాన్యువల్గా బీన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేయవలసిన అవసరం లేదు. జస్ట్ we have multiple classes there, right? For every class we need to annotate it with at the rate component. Okay, so by class next. So for every class we need to annotate it with at the rate component. That means what is the purpose of at the rate component? What is the purpose of at the rate component annotation means, it automatically tells spring IOC container to create spring bean. ఓకే, మనం ఏ క్లాస్కి అయితే @component annotation ఇస్తామో దాని అర్థం ఏంటంటే ఈ @component annotation ఐఓసి కంటైనర్కి చెప్తుంది. సో ఈ క్లాస్కి నువ్వు ఆటోమేటిక్గా స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్ క్రియేట్ చేసి దాని యొక్క లైఫ్ సైకిల్ మేనేజ్ చేయాలి అని ఐఓసి కంటైనర్కి చెప్తుంది ఈ యానోటేషన్. ఓకే, వాట్ ఈస్ ద మెయిన్ పర్పస్ ఆఫ్ @component annotation? It tells spring IOC container to automatically create spring beans for those classes for which classes are annotated with @component. Okay, @component annotation అంటే ఏంటి? It's nothing but it tells spring IOC container to automatically create spring bean and manages those life cycle. Okay, so traveler అంటే ఏ క్లాస్కి మీరు @component annotation యూజ్ చేస్తే ఈ యానోటేషన్ స్ప్రింగ్ ఐఓసి కంటైనర్కి చెప్తుంది ఈ క్లాస్కి ఈ కాంపోనెంట్ యానోటేషన్ యూజ్ చేశారు కాబట్టి యూ నీడ్ టు క్రియేట్ ది ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అండ్ మేనేజ్ దోస్ లైఫ్ సైకిల్ ఆఫ్ దట్ స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్ అని చెప్తారు. ఓకే, దిస్ ఈస్ ద యూజ్ ఆఫ్ @component annotation. ఓకే, what is the @component annotation and what is purpose of @component annotation? Anyone? What is the main purpose of @component annotation?
It will tell to IOC container to create the object and manage the life cycle.
Correct. So it will tell to IOC container to create the object and manage the life cycle. కానీ ఇక్కడ జావా బేస్డ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ లో ఏం చేసాం? ఇన్ జావా బేస్డ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ we are manually created the spring beans. Okay, after that IOC container read this class and for those beans it will manages the life cycle. But here we no need to create any spring beans. Okay, when you annotated any class with @component, that means IOC container automatically create the spring beans for that class and automatically manage the life cycle. Okay, automatically manage the life cycle of the spring bean. Okay, this is the use of @component annotation. See, next one, @componentScan annotation. What is the use of @componentScan means? First, after creating the IOC container, okay, after creating the IOC container, how IOC container will read that package? So for that we need to use @componentScan. Okay, this componentScan annotation is available in context annotation. Okay, next, base package equal to our package name. Our package name is arg.example.spring and inside the spring we have sub package called core. This is our package name, arg.example ఇదిగోండి ఇది ప్యాకేజ్ నేమ్. సో what is the use of this package name means? After creation of IOC container, it go through this configuration file. Why? Because why it goes through the configuration? It go through the configuration file. Why? Because here we provide this class. Okay, after creation of IOC container, it reads this configuration class. Inside this configuration class, we have this component annotation, ComponentScan annotation. What is the use of ComponentScan annotation? It will provide the package. Okay, it will provide the package. అంటే IOC కంటైనర్ ఏ ప్యాకేజ్ రీడ్ చేయాలో ఇక్కడ ప్రొవైడ్ చేస్తుంది. ఓకే, సో దిస్ కాంపోనెంట్ స్కాన్ it provide this base package. Okay, for which package IOC container beans create చేయాలో ఆ ప్యాకేజ్ ని ఇక్కడ మనకి మెన్షన్ చేస్తుంది. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ డెఫినేషన్ చూడండి. @component annotation to specify package name for scanning those classes that are annotated with @component annotation. అంటే ఈ ప్యాకేజ్ లో మనకి ఐఓసి కంటైనర్ వచ్చి కాంపోనెంట్ స్కాన్ ఏం చేస్తుంది, ఈ ప్యాకేజ్ ని స్కాన్ చేస్తుంది. స్కాన్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఓకే, ఏ క్లాస్ అయితే @component annotation తో యానోటేట్ చేసిందో, ఓకే, ఏ క్లాస్కి అయితే @component annotation మనం యూజ్ చేసామో ఆ క్లాసెస్ కి స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తుంది. ఓకే, ఏ క్లాస్కి అయితే @component annotation యూజ్ చేసామో ఆ క్లాసెస్ కి స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్ క్రియేట్ చేసి దాని యొక్క లైఫ్ సైకిల్ ని మేనేజ్ చేస్తుంది. దట్ ఈస్ ద మెయిన్ యూసేజ్ ఆఫ్ @component scan. ఓకే, ఏం చేస్తుంది, ఫస్ట్ ఐఓసి కంటైనర్ క్రియేట్ చేసిన వెంటనే ఇట్స్ రీచ్ ది configuration file. Okay, inside this configuration file we use @component scan. @component scan specifies the package name. Okay, so then IOC container go through this package. Inside this package, which classes are annotated with @component annotation, for those classes it automatically create spring bean and manages those life cycle. Okay, that is the use of @component scan. It simply provide the package name here. Okay, that's it. What is use of @component scan? ఎవరికైనా అర్థం కాలేదా?
ప్యాకేజ్ నేమ్
ఎవరికైనా అర్థం కాలేదా?
డౌట్
చెప్పండి.
అక్కడ బీన్ అని ఇచ్చాం కదా సార్ కింద క్లాస్ లోపల. సో కాంపోనెంట్స్ ఇది అవసరం లేదా? ఇంకా
అవసరం లేదు. ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా? ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ వన్ ఈస్ auto-wide annotation. Auto-wide annotation, 1 minute. హలో అమ్మా, నీకు ఇంకొక 20 minutes తర్వాత చేస్తున్నా. So @auto-wide annotation to automatically inject this spring bean. Okay, that means ఏంటంటే here we have traveler class. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ మనకి traveler class ఉంది. So inside this traveler class we are injecting vehicle interface. Okay, inside the traveler class we are injecting vehicle interface. That means we are injecting one class into another class. Okay, to inject one class object into another class we will use @auto-wide annotation. @auto-wide annotation, there are three ways to inject one class object into another class. First way is by using constructor injection. This is constructor, right? So first way ఏంటంటే constructor injection, second way sector injection, third way is field injection. Okay, third way is field injection. So here we used constructor injection. అంటే ఇక్కడ చూడండి, traveler class vehicle is the dependency of the traveler class. Okay, vehicle is the dependence of the traveler class. That means we need to inject vehicle interface to traveler class. How we will inject vehicle interface to traveler class? Not only interface to classes, how we can inject one object into another object? By using @auto-wide annotation. Okay, there are three ways. There are three ways are there to inject one class object into another class object. One is constructor injection. Second one is setter injection. Third one is field injection. So in tomorrow class, I will discuss about dependency injection. Okay. In tomorrow class, I will discuss about dependency injection. So in tomorrow, I will give example for constructor injection, setter injection, and field injection. Okay. So this what is the main purpose of @autovide annotation? It inject one class object into another class. Okay. So ఈ traveler class ki vehicle interface dependency ఉంది. That means we need to inject that vehicle interface into traveler class. How we can inject? By using @autovide annotation. That is the case of @autovide annotation. Next one is @qualifier annotation. It avoid confusion between multiple spring beans of the same time. Okay, so I will explain @config annotation now. చూడండి. ఇప్పుడు మనం ఏం చేసాం? జస్ట్ ఎవ్రీ క్లాస్ వి annotated with @component annotation, right? Now we will run this class. See, we are not creating any objects. We are not creating any beans. Now see, here we are getting no qualifier bean of type com.arg.example.spring.core vehicle available expected single matching bean but found 3 bike, car, cycle. That means in the traveler class ఒకసారి చూడండి ఆ కన్సోల్ ని ఇంకోసారి రన్ చేస్తా. ఓకే, no qualifying bean of type ఈ ప్యాకేజ్ లో ఇన్ దిస్ ప్యాకేజ్ డాట్ వెహికల్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్ లో అవైలబుల్ ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ సింగిల్ మ్యాచ్ బీన్. ఓకే, బట్ ఫౌండ్ 3 బైక్, కారు, సైకిల్. దట్ మీన్స్ ఇన్ ట్రావెలర్ క్లాస్. So IOC container, after creation of IOC container, it goes through the app config class, configuration class, and it scan these packages. So it scan each and every class. Once you go, so it scan this traveler class also. Traveler class is depend on vehicle interface. Vehicle interface is vehicle is the interface. Okay, for this interface it implemented 3 classes. Okay, so we are passing this vehicle interface. We are passing this vehicle interface as a parameter. Okay, but vehicle interface has 3 classes. Vehicle interface has 3 implementation classes. So at this time we got ambiguity problem. Okay, now IOC container got ambiguity problem. For which class we need to create this spring bean? ఓకే, ఏ క్లాస్ కి స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్ క్రియేట్ చేయాలో ambiguity ఇక్కడ IOC కంటైనర్ ఫేస్ చేస్తుంది. ఎట్ దట్ టైం వాట్ వి నీడ్ టు డూ? @qualifier and we will give cycle class name. Okay, that means it clear ఈ traveler class లో ఈ cycle class కి స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తుంది. ఓకే, సో చూడండి. expected one beans auto wild. The rate auto wild annotation. The traveler class. Rate auto wild. ఇక్కడ కార్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్, సైకిల్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్ అని వచ్చింది. బైక్, కార్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్, సైకిల్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్ అని వచ్చింది. ఓకే, సో మీరు బైక్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్ అని క్రియేట్ చేయాలంటే చేసాం కదా. కార్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్, బైక్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్ అని వచ్చింది. ట్రావెల్, సైకిల్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్ అని రావాలంటే మనం జస్ట్ అప్లికేషన్ కంటెక్స్ట్ డాట్ గెట్ బి. ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి చెప్పండి? హౌ టు కాల్ ట్రావెలర్ క్లాస్? ట్రావెలర్ డాట్ క్లాస్ నీడ్ టు స్టోర్, అంటే ఆ రిట్రీవ్ చేసిన వాల్యూని ఒక వేరియబుల్లో స్టోర్ చేసుకోవాలి. ట్రావెలర్ t1 ఈక్వల్ టు దెన్ t1 డాట్ స్టార్ట్ జర్నీ. ఇప్పుడు సైకిల్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్ అని కూడా వస్తుంది. సైకిల్ ఈజ్ మూవింగ్. సో దట్స్ ఇట్. సో ఇక్కడ ట్రావెలర్ క్లాస్లో వాట్ ఈస్ ద యూజ్ ఆఫ్ క్వాలిఫైర్ అంటే ఇట్ అవాయిడ్ కన్ఫ్యూజన్ బిట్వీన్ మల్టిపుల్ బీన్స్ ఆఫ్ సేమ్ టైప్. ఓకే, సేమ్ టైప్లో ఉన్న మల్టిపుల్ బీన్స్ ఉంటే ఆ మల్టిపుల్ ఇక్కడ ఉన్నాయి కదా, కార్ బీన్ ఉంది, బైక్ బీన్, సైకిల్ బీన్, బోత్ ఆర్ సేమ్ టైప్. దట్స్ వై ఇట్స్ ఫేస్ ఇనిషియల్లీ. ఓకే, ముందేంటి, ఇట్ థ్రోస్ ఏ compile time error, right? So at that time IOC container facing ambiguity problem. Why it facing ambiguity problem? We have three classes. Okay, we have three classes in same type. Okay, that's why it's your IOC container facing ambiguity problem. So when we use @qualifier annotation, means it creates bean for this cycle class annotation. For this cycle class, it's create bean for this cycle class. This is the use of @qualifier annotation. @qualifier annotation is nothing but it's avoid confusion between multiple classes of same type. Same type లో ఉన్న multiple classes కి ఇది స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్ క్రియేట్ చేయడంలో కన్ఫ్యూజన్ ని అవాయిడ్ చేస్తుంది. That is the main purpose. See, @qualifier annotation to avoid confusion between multiple spring beans of the same type. Okay, so అర్థమైందా వాట్ ఈస్ qualifier అనేది? కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అయ్యారా? సో చూడండి, బై డిఫాల్ట్ గా ఇక్కడ నేను సైకిల్ అని ఇచ్చా. ఓకే, బై డిఫాల్ట్ గా ఇక్కడ నేను బై డిఫాల్ట్ స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ నేమ్స్ ఆర్ class names, but the starting letter of the name is small. ఓకే, అంటే స్ప్రింగ్ బీన్స్ ని ఐఓసి కంటైనర్ ఎలా క్రియేట్ చేస్తుంది అంటే క్లాస్ నేమ్ తో క్రియేట్ చేస్తుంది, బట్ స్టార్టింగ్ లెటర్ అనేది స్మాల్ టీ అని ఉంటుంది అంతే. స్టార్టింగ్ లెటర్ అనేది క్యాపిటల్ టీ కాకుండా స్మాల్ టీ అని ఉంటుంది, అది యూసేజ్. సో అందుకే ఇక్కడ నేను ఫస్ట్ క్యాపిటల్ సి ఇస్తే వర్క్ అవ్వలేదు, తర్వాత స్మాల్ సి ఇస్తే వర్క్ అయింది. వై? బికాస్ ద స్ప్రింగ్, the bean is small c, it starts with small, that's why now it's working fine. క్వాలిఫైర్ అంటే ఎవరికైనా అర్థం కాలేదా? ఇంకోసారి చెప్పాలా? శశాంక్, అనిరుద్, మోహన్, what is @qualifier annotation? Shall I repeat once again?
It will avoid ambiguity between the same type of multiple classes.
Anyone? Divya, Shashi, what is @qualifier annotation? అర్థమైందా? ఇంకోసారి రిపీట్ చేయాలా? చెప్పండి అమ్మా.
Sir, can you please explain in English?
Okay. See, @qualifier annotation is nothing but it avoid confusion between multiple classes. Okay, see here we have 3 classes are available of same type. Both 3 classes are same type, right? So see, without using @qualifier annotation, okay, without using @qualifier annotation, it throws compile time error. Which error it throws? See, no qualifying bean of type available expected single match bean but found 3. That means Spring IOC container at a time it able to create only single bean, but it have 3 classes available. Why? Because why 3 classes are available means traveler class is dependent on vehicle interface, right? Traveler class is dependent on vehicle interface. So vehicle interface, it implemented for this vehicle interface implemented 3 classes. Okay, 3 classes implemented this interface. Okay, so IOC container scan this class. Okay, once scan this class, it throws compile time error. Why it is throws compile time error means vehicle interface. Okay, 3 classes are implementing this single vehicle interface. Okay, so here it passing only vehicle interface. Okay, when IOC container read this line, so inside this line we have 3 implementation classes are available. So IOC container facing ambiguity here. Okay, so out of those 3 classes, for which classes IOC container will create Spring Bean? So I need to mention @qualifier and bean name cycle. Okay, we need to give qualifier annotation and the bean name of the class. Okay, that means it avoid that confusion. Okay, this IOC container avoid that confusion and create the Spring Bean of this class and manages the life cycle. It avoid the confusion and create this Spring Bean of this class. That's it. This is @qualifier annotation. It avoid confusion. For example, instead of cycle, if you give car, now it will print car is moving. See, car is moving. When we call traveler class, it print car is moving. Bike is the, if you give bike it's B, it will print bike is moving. Okay, that means inside this vehicle, if it contain 10, if for this vehicle interface, if you have 10 implementations also, no problem. Just we need to give at the rate qualifier annotation. At the time, Spring IOC container scan this class and create these Spring Beans for this car class and manages those life cycle. So that is the usage of at the rate qualifier annotation. Priyanka, now you got my point, right?
Yes, sir, I got.
Next, Spring IOC container retrieve Spring Beans from Spring IOC container. Retrieve is nothing but a see here application dot get bean. That means we are retrieving this car class. Okay, by using get bean method. So, and there is another annotation called at the rate primary annotation. For example, here I didn't provide at the rate qualifier annotation. Here I didn't provide at the rate qualifier annotation. I provide at the rate primary annotation. See, for bike class, I am providing primary annotation. That means just at the rate primary is the alternative of qualifier annotation. Okay, that means if for which class you are annotated with at the rate primary, that means that Spring IOC container gives first preference to that class only. Okay, Spring IOC container to give higher preference to a bean where there are multiple beans of the same type. So here we have multiple beans on it. Here we have multiple beans, that is bike, car, cycle. For which class we are annotated with at the rate primary annotation, for that class only it gives higher preference. Okay, Spring IOC container will give higher preference. So that is the primary annotation. Understand, right? What is primary annotation? It's just an alternative of at the rate qualifier annotation, and it gives higher preference to the bean where there are multiple beans of same type. Where there are multiple beans of same type. So that is at the rate primary annotation. Qualifier annotation means is used in conjunction with auto-void to avoid confusion when we have two or more beans configured for same type. Okay. Now all are understand about these 5 annotations, right? Component scan, auto-void, qualifier, and at the rate primary.
Yes, sir.
Or any doubt? Bhargav, Adarsh, Shashi, Priyanka, Mohan.
Clear.
Clear, na? Okay. So next topic is stereotype annotation. Stereotype or annotations is nothing but a what is the use of at the rate component annotation, Priyanka?
It will automatically tell the IOC container to create the Spring Bean To create the object or to manage the life cycle
Correct.
of the bean.
So for stereotype annotations purpose is also same. It tells Spring IOC container to automatically create Spring Bean for which classes are annotated with at the rate component, at the rate service, and the rate repository, and at the rate controller. Okay. So before we used only at the rate component. Okay. But in stereotype annotations is nothing but a is the just a derived annotations of component annotation. So see, at the rate component annotation is the main annotation. Okay. For that annotation, we have derived annotations. That is at the rate controller and at the rate service and at the rate repository. Okay, at the rate component, at the rate service, and at the rate repository. At the rate component annotation is the main annotation. Okay, at the rate component annotation is the main annotation. At the rate controller is the sub annotations. These three are sub annotation of the at the rate component annotation. Okay, but all these four annotation purpose is same. Okay, what is that purpose? It tells Spring IOC container to automatically create Spring Bean and manages the life cycle of the Spring Bean. But the only difference is so at the rate service annotation is used to create Spring Beans at the service layer. These three layers are used in layers wise. Okay. These three annotations are used in layers wise. That means service layer lo service annotation ఇవ్వాలి. Repository layer lo repository annotation ఇవ్వాలి. Controller layer lo controller annotation ఇవ్వాలి. Okay. We will give service annotation in service layer. Repository annotation in repository layer. Controller annotation in controller layer. Okay, these three annotations used in layers wise. Okay, so this is the main use of stereotype annotation. See how it will work means here inside this core package I will create another package that is new package called controller, and I will create another package called service. Next, new package called repository. So here I created three packages. Why I created three packages? At the rate service, at the rate controller, at the rate repositories. These three annotations only used in layers wise. Okay, only it will use in layers wise. Next, new class controller class public string method name is controller call return hello controller class called. So for this controller class, we need to annotate it with @controller. Same new class repository. So public string repository return repository called. For this repository layer, we need to annotate it with @repository. So I will explain in coming classes what is controller layer, what is repository layer, what is service layer అనేది I will explain in coming classes. Next, new class as service. For this service class, @service. See, @service annotation is present in stereotype. Okay, org.springframework.stereotype package. Okay, I create the method and I return one string value. That's it. Now create another class called new class demo client. Inside that, create main method. Now how to create Spring IOC container? Anirudh, how to create IOC container?
Application context.
ఎవరైనా చెప్పండి. I will type application context. Next,
Reference, you can give anything.
reference app context
Equals to new annotation.
So here we have multiple implementations are available. So based on the requirement, we will use any class. Okay, but mostly all are using annotation class only. Annotation config application context. Next, ఏం చేయాలి? Hello. Next, same. We need to give app config class. App config class. That class. Next, app context. ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి చెప్పండి. I want to call demo controller. Sorry, I want to call class controller, class repository, class service. Now what I need to do? By using that reference, I need to call these classes. Get bean. First one is class controller. See, class controller dot class. Okay, we are retrieving the data. In class controller we have the string, right? So we are retrieving this data. We need to store the data in some variable. For that, demo controller, class controller here equal to, that means that string is there, right? The string will store in this CR. By using that CR dot controller class. Inside this class controller, we have controller call and method only. We have controller call method. We need to call that method. CR dot controller call. That's it. In the same way, we need to call each and every method. We need to call each and every class. So repository ki Same, taking this reference app context dot get bean. Inside this bean we need to provide class name, class repository dot class. So that means here this object will retrieve this repository class. Inside this class we have some data, demo class repository equal to class crr dot repository call. Hello repository call method, hello controller class method, demo client, run demo client. See now why it's not printing? We are not printing the values. Now it will print. So hello controller class called, hello repository class called. This is the use of controller annotation, service annotation, repository annotation. Okay, all are
Stereotype.
Stereotype annotations. Okay, see, service annotation is used to create spring beans at the service layer. Repository is used to create spring beans for the repository layer. Okay, so in yesterday class we discussed about Java based configuration. In today class we discussed about annotation based configuration. Okay, so once go through the yesterday code and today code. The number of, we are just here calling the methods, that's it. Okay, here just we are calling methods multiple times, but yesterday we are creating the objects. Okay, yesterday we are manually creating the objects, but today we didn't create any objects anywhere, right? So that is the main usage. Okay, in Java based configuration, we are need to create objects manually. Okay, we need to do something in manually, but in annotation based configuration these annotations will take care about all those things. Okay, this annotation will take care about the all those things. First of all, what is annotation? Anyone, what is annotation?
Shortcut.
No.
Like a tax that provides the additional information about that program or class.
Correct. It's the first, in technical terms wise, annotation is nothing but a metadata. Nothing but a metadata. Metadata means data about data. Okay. Data about data. That means it provides more data about the program. Okay, it provides more data about the program. What is annotation? Annotation is nothing but a metadata. Metadata means it's a data about data. That means it provides some additional information about a program. It provides some additional information about the program, about the fields, about the methods, about the classes. Like that, it provides about additional information about the program. That is annotation. Annotation is nothing but a metadata. Metadata means data about data. Data about data ante means it provides additional information. It provides additional information about the program. Additional information about either it is fields or classes or methods. That is annotation. See, what is the difference between Java based configuration and annotation based configuration? So in Java based configuration, we need to manually create a method and annotate it with bean annotation. But in annotation based configuration, we need to annotate a class with component annotation. After that, IOC container automatically create the spring beans for those which classes are annotated with component annotation. Okay. Next, we need to write a code to create objects and inject the dependencies. Yesterday we created some spring beans, right? So in Java based configuration, we need to create the objects. But in annotation based configuration, IOC container will create the objects and manages those life cycle. Next, in Java based configuration, we use very less number of annotations. That is configuration and bean. But in annotation based configuration, we used component, qualifier, primary, component scan, controller, service, and repository. So we used these many annotations. Compared to Java based configuration, annotation based configuration is it's reduced developer effect. Okay. So any doubts? Any doubts in today class? ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా? అనిరుద్, శశి, శశాంక్.
No, sir, understood.
Okay. And another thing is, next week I will create one Teams. Okay. So all are please install Teams application. Okay.